All the way down south till. You got way down just past Buck Point.
You got all that on one load?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm curious about how much all you get out of it. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. And it just depends on how dry they are.
Yeah.
They ground all those.
Right now, it's still mowing, so it's,
Yes.
you're mulching them up with the mower, it was better.
Which
Charge them right on about that.
that's actually worse when they're dry like this.
Is that
Because they look like strands.
I did notice some of that.
If you looked at it,
Somewhere. Yeah.
That's what gonna mind, and yeah, there's still that mind, what's that, leave on, really bad.
How are you doing? No.
Weekend is,
That's what I was gonna tell her.
my plans.
No, the other hand.
If you do, well, you can't really, I mean, I think it's kind of, it's always dinner, and we can get that. So,
Yeah, I was trying, they were telling me,
Yeah, we're fine.
I know, that's.
Okay. Go hit the hammer here.
Okay, everybody, we have 7 o'clock. And we'll get the meeting started. We do have a pretty full agenda, so we'll have to just move right along with, hopefully we can. With that, we'll have introductions first, and I'll start. And I'm Bill Hanna. I am president of Planning Council or Planning Committee, and I'm at 208 West Highway Drive.
I'm George Schenkel, on the planning commission also, 144 West Clear Lake.
Dan Ricky, 126 Lakeside Court.
Mike Hawk, attorney for the planning commission.
Jennifer Savison, Milling Park.
Robert Holly, zoning administrator.
Guy Rogers, street utility superintendent. Burton Jennings McLean, 1226 Quiet Harbor Drive.
Jessica Swander, 7382 East State Road 120.
All up 154 West Clear Lake Drive.
Very good. So we have a quorum.
Yes, sir.
Robert, just, we have a few people on Zoom. Can you review the guidelines for everybody there?
Yep, so, for everyone in the audience, as always, we have speakers in the, ceiling, so keep the top down so that way people can hear that are, attending via Zoom, and then, those of you that are on the panel, make sure that you speak into your microphone clearly, so that way, you can be heard as well.
Okay, very good. So the agenda is up here. Robert and I are working. We'll have the agenda up on this screen. The entire meeting, and then we'll use the screen on the left to display the various documents that we'll be looking at. So the agenda is there. Any changes, corrections to the agenda? If not, then I'll look for a motion to approve as displayed.
This is George, I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
All right, we have a motion and a second.
Guy Rogers, I'll second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, accepted the agenda. And we'll proceed. Meeting minutes. Robert, we display the meeting minutes. They've been sent out to everybody and any corrections, changes, questions about the meeting minutes from the committee?
I'd like to present it.
Well, good. If that's the case, then I'll look for a motion to approve the meeting minutes for the August 1st, 2023 as written.
So this is Dan. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
Very good. In a second.
I'll second Jessica.
Very good. Thank you, Jessica. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion is accepted to approve the August 1st, 2023 meeting minutes as written. Continuing on the agenda, there are no budget items. We have one application. This is a rezoning request. The applicant is Bruce Krill, and I think I see him on Zoom. Very good. He is there. With that, we'll have I'll describe the order of process here. First, we'll have the staff report that Robert will go through. And then if there's any questions from the PC to Robert, we'll address those. And then we'll give Mr. Krill the opportunity to present his application. As a reminder, this was something that was presented in August. There were a few questions and we postponed that, give Bruce the opportunity to go back and amend and or address some of the questions that were posed. This is a topic that is not open for public comment and that we had the opportunity last meeting. And since there were no changes in the application, we'll just proceed with the applicant review and then PC discussions. And when that's complete, then we'll look for we'll call for a motion for vote. So with that, the staff report, Robert.
Yes, the application was presented by Bruce Krill. Lake address is at 101 Lakeside Court. These are two vacant lots just north of that do not have an address. On his original application, he was looking to combine the two parcels for residential use. The lot is currently unusable in the current zoning district for a residential application. These are an image. This is the 101 Lakeside Court on the bottom side of the blue area. These are the two lots in question. The lots are relatively flat with no improvements. The lots are triangular shaped due to their size. They're legal non-conforming lots for the NC district and for the proposed district. According to the future land use map, this area is not considered considered for future residential development, but the requested rezoning does touch the single family residential zoning district. It was published according to the ordinance on July 18th, 2023. And the hearing was on August 1st, 2023 at 7 o'clock. For adjacent owners were sent legal notices and 26 courtesy notices have been written to the property. Criteria for the decision is from 9.20.E7 for rezoning map amendments. This is just a copy of everyone that received a notice. Pink is adjacent properties. Another image of how people get notified. Going over the feedback from it, it was 36 total, 1 in support, 62 in opposition. And then the comments that follow, I won't go back over those again. Here's a copy of the future land use map of that area. You can see the red area is zone or spotted for low intensity non-residential. This is a new addition to my report. It's the zoning matrix. So it shows the proposed use to the current use, or the current use to the proposed use. So in the left column under neighborhood district, these are all the permitted uses. Under the right column, these are all the proposed uses. So going through permitted special exemption and then the district intents, these are copy and pasted out of the UDO. Nothing that was added by me. This is a comparison, another zoning makers comparison showing the lot sizes, requirements of the lot, and our 2-page layout of our ordinance. The current lot area between the two lots is 3480, and this is square footage is taken off of Beacon. Current lot width is 40 feet. If they were combined, there's no sewer or water present, no current lot coverage 0, structure coverage 0, no primary structures on the lots. Going off of some of the questions from the last meeting, one of the things that came up, we're talking about being able to develop on a lot that's a legal non-conforming, 805 or 8.05 legal non-conforming lot states that legal non-conforming lot shall be permitted to be developed so long as the desired structure and uses meet the current UDO or the current Unified Development Ordinance. So to be able to build on the lot, you essentially have to meet the setbacks. This is just showing based off of the SR district what the restrictions are going to be sought if he were able to combine them. This is just basically showing that you'd need to seek variances with the two lots being combined to be able to establish a building that met the minimum standards of the UDO. So we, you know, as far as setbacks, architectural requirements, and so on. If it was entertained for a rezoning, the reason why he has to go through a rezoning process, this was another question. Why can't we go through another step? Per the UDO, an administrative subdivision process can only follow the administrative subdivision process can only be done in SR, LR, LA, and RE districts. So non-commercial districts or neighborhood commercial districts are not permitted to use the administrative subdivision process. So rezoning would be necessary if you wanted to do that. Another question that came up, and we had clarification from a planner on, is if any combination of all 3 lots were to be entertained, the applicant would have to utilize a replat process and then an administrative subdivision process to combine all 3 lots. But that's a whole process which me and the applicant did go over. Added in here the applicable comprehensive plan and policies and objectives. Policy 2.2 discouraging residential developments, particularly restrict direct access to the lake and prohibit new or existing channel development. Policy 3.1, the other side of the point, prohibit the creation of new commercial development districts and encourage the redevelopment of existing commercial areas in Clear Lake. 7.1 or 7.1, ensure the town's land use regulations and actions related to plans are consistent with the policies and objectives contained in 2013 update to the comprehensive plan. And 7.4, I really won't go into that because I think that kind of doesn't have much of a point. So, motion from the postponement, which were provided by Dan Rippey. The question is in black and the answers are in red. So one of the questions I was asked, and there were more than these, but these were the beginnings of it, and we'll go on to Mr. Krill if anyone has any further questions. How far do you want me to read down these?
Let Mr. Krill address the responses.
Okay.
That his folks are making.
And that's the end of it.
Okay, so next step here will be any questions for Robert to clarify what he just read.
But I just. So just so I get it clear in my mind again, it's been a while and I'm senior citizen. So the request is to rezone the 2 triangular shaped lots into a single 3,480 square foot lot. And the requested zoning is SR.
Correct.
Okay,
That was the original request.
but then the next question is, if that's a standalone project, I mean, that's all we're doing tonight. Is that buildable?
It's not buildable without a variance, like there would be some variances that would probably need to be sought to even build on it still. And which Mr. Krill and I did go through.
As noted, the buildable area is 540 square feet and our UDO would require 800 square feet.
Yeah.
So there's a variance right there that would be required.
I mean, okay,
And that's not to go into question about the architecture.
understood, thank you, appreciate it, clarification.
Robert, I have a question and it's directed at both you and Mike. The status of these two lots right now, you said are legal non-conforming.
Right.
When you combine them, doesn't that legal non-conforming status go away?
And then Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, the legal non-consorted status for those two lots separate go away in my experience, but it lessens the non-conformity that existed by combining the two.
But it doesn't become a legal
It
non-conforming.
would still be a legal non-conformity.
Because it doesn't meet the area requirement.
Right. Because it's a lot of record, so
The lot is legal, but there's nothing that it could conform and that could be built on it.
no.
Okay.
Not without a variance, so.
Okay, thank you.
Your question is just with respect to the two lots or all three?
No, just the two. I believe, Robert, you touched on the three lots where there are two subdivisions that split them and you cannot administratively combine two lots in separate subdivisions. And that's a whole legal challenge that the petitioner is going to have to fix before this thing can really move forward with us,
If they wanted to do that.
if they want to do it. So we just almost have the cart in front of the horse, but I don't want to stop the hearing at this moment.
Any other questions for Robert for clarification? Okay, then we'll give the opportunity to Mr. Krill to present the application and also Mr. Krill, if you can address the responses to the questions that we posed. Are you able to hear us and can we hear?
Shoot, just a second, I lost it. There it is. Bruce, you can unmute yourself. Or I'll ask him to unmute himself. Go, you're still muted, Adam. Okay. You're still muted.
How about now?
There we go.
All right, good. Okay. I guess my hope and desire is here. I've talked to my children about this and we've kind of talked about, it'd be nice to be able to combine the three lots together. Eventually, I understand there's a process there and this is the first step in doing that. I know there was a lot of feedback that was negative because I think people were thinking that I was going to put a home up there. Well, in reconsidering it, I don't think that possibility would ever happen. I just don't think the board would allow it, and there's just not enough room there, basically. And so I'm thinking that eventually, and it may never happen in my lifetime, but for my children, I would like to maybe give them the opportunity to do that and be able to, put on some kind of garage. It's going to stay in the family. We've been there 32 years and my kids just love it there. That's kind of my hope. And I know, like I said, it's a process, but this is the first step. Nothing, like I said, will probably ever be done in my lifetime. But I know for a fact that across the road, Mr. Culberson had his property was commercial. I've talked to him, Bill, and he said that, I said, well, how did you get that changed? And he said, well, I just left it in the builder's hands and he took care of it. So I don't know what happened there and he doesn't know what happened there. But I just think that given that possibility, it would be just a good venture for me to have. And I hope the board approves it.
Bruce, can you address the responses to the questions that we posed and you sent those to Robert this week or late last week?
Yeah, I can't see them, but
They should be on your Zoom screen, or I trust you have the,
okay, there they are.
okay.
Okay. And what questions do you wish me to address, or just talk
All
about?
of them, if you would, they're your words, and rather than have Robert.
Okay,
If you could just sort of go through them in short order.
okay. Oh, let's see. I'm having a hard time reading them, but like I said, there's, as they are, the lots are really, I'm just mowing them. Basically, they're a parking lot for me. And I don't know. I just don't see any sense in leaving them like that, because there's no use to them at all. And like I said, I want to put a garage on it or something, eventually have that ability to do that. I know one of the big disagreements was with the survey was, people, too many people, you're crowding the lake, et cetera, et cetera. Well, if I'm putting a garage or a storage area, that would eliminate most of those complaints. I'm sure I'd like to have some type of water and sewer, so I would need that. I'm not sure, I wouldn't get anything done until I was able to get the variances and get the lots combined, and who knows if that's even going to happen at this point. But that's basically the first step. I'm not going to have any new address. It'll be connected to my current residence. There's no home business or anything that, I know they were inquiring about that. So basically just storage and place to park a car is all I'm asking for. And, I know it's a process, but you got to take it one step at a time. Any other questions?
Yeah, so any questions, Rob, to Bruce, from the PC?
Bruce, this is George Bengal. I believe it's the third question that was asked, what specific developments do you intend to carry out? In your response, you said, my intent is to build a garage with probably some more living space. Could you expand on that comment, please?
Maybe an extra bedroom, and I want to, my hope is I can attach the garage to my current home. Maybe be able to open something up and put an extra bedroom or a little extra living space, make the kitchen bigger, things like that if the lots are overlapping. But it's not going to be anything, anything extravagant. I know there are a lot of places on back lots that have, additional living space at Clear Lake. So, that's kind of my hope.
Is that plan to be carried out with just these two lots, or not until you combine all three of the lots?
I would have to combine all three. Yeah, I don't think that's, like I said, this is the first step, and then I would have to get together with Robert and see what the next process was. I know I have to get a survey and all that. So, and like I said, I don't know if I'll ever be able to do it, but I'd like to have the ability to do it if I could.
Just so I understand you, so basically, if these two lots were rezoned single family, you would do nothing with them until they were combined with your current home.
Correct. Correct.
And so there would be, at that point, no variance request, no BZA request to try to put something on these two combined lots.
correct.
Any other questions for Bruce?
No.
Bruce, how big is your current lot, your residential lot? How wide?
I think it's 40
Okay,
wide, and I think it's a little over 110 long.
so you've got 40 or 45 now, and this would add another 40.
Correct.
Width, okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, then I'll turn over discussion amongst ourselves. Any comments?
I have questions for Robert. So Robert, as I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, step one would be replatting to include those neighborhood commercial lots within the same subdivision.
Correct.
Step two would be then rezone.
I guess that one, you could kind of put one or the other in front. You could rezone with
That's two
conditions.
distinct steps, though.
Yeah,
Whether one comes first
correct.
or second, okay. And then you're allowed then at that point to do an administrative subdivision. And if the lot, all three were combined, is it still legal non-conforming because of area?
Yeah, I think it comes under the 1200 still.
Okay.
Or 12,000, sorry.
Yeah, about 8,000 and change when all three are combined.
So there's still a variance required to do construction.
And of course, once the surveys and everything come in, and depending on what the construction actually would entail, then potentially there still might be a variance. I didn't go that far into all three lots being combined to see if they would need them. But
Won't they need a variance? They'll be under the 12,000 square foot requirement.
you don't need a variance when you're under the square footage. As long as you meet the setbacks and all
If they
that
were legally,
combined.
but I question whether that's something that we can do.
And does that tie to the 540 square foot calculation that you made?
That's only, the 540 is only for those two lots, so then you'd have to. That would give him plus a 10-foot setback off of that one side of between the property lines, that would give him 10 extra feet on that lot, plus whatever's between his house and his property line currently. For more square footage to be able to establish a footprint of. While meeting the setbacks.
So if we were to go ahead and rezone this. And nothing further would transpire. Then the only buildable area is 500 something square feet.
If you rezoned it without conditions for these two properties, yes.
Yeah, if the two properties were combined.
The buildable area by our ordinance is only 540, which is under the main floor living requirement.
Thank you.
And can I have a question? Am I muted?
No, you're not muted.
Okay. Would the 540, would that allow me to build a garage or something similar to that in that area? Or does that have to be 800 square feet?
For a non-living space, you only have a maximum of 1,200 that's attached to your primary structure. So as you were talking about attaching it.
Okay.
Livable space can't exceed 1,200 square feet attached. So,
Okay.
You could use any number in between 0 and 1,200.
Well, from a standalone standpoint.
From a standalone standpoint,
If it was a standalone, just the two lots rezoned, then the max buildable is 540, right?
well, we don't have a setback requirement between buildings from an accessory building to a structure, so. You add another 10 by. Whatever feet that is, it could actually be a little bit more than 540, but let's go with 540 for a number.
But I was assuming that the two lots were standalone, they were not connected to his current lot.
they're not connected, but he's suggesting that he would combine them.
Yeah, but if we got no further than our rezoning these two lots.
We're talking about if we don't, if he doesn't do the administrative subdivision and we have two lots, what are the limitations on that?
Correct, Jim. If he owns just the combined two lots. And he or his heirs never progressed with combining them with his current residence. The max buildable is 500 something square.
Yeah.
Okay. Because we really have no guarantee that it's gonna get any further than that.
Not unless you impose a condition. As an option of the PC, the plan commission, wanted to entertain.
On the other hand, if we went ahead and rezoned them and got no further, then you're probably just looking at a garage, huh? But without it being combined to his current house. Or if he sold it,
Well, he wouldn't be able to establish a garage on the lot if it's separate from the house.
he would not.
He would not, because in the SR district, you're required to have a principal structure before you have a garage.
Accessory structure.
Yeah,
So virtually,
Nothing.
cool, thank you very much.
You know, just another question. I know on some of the back properties there are storage areas. And is there a reason that I wouldn't be able to put something there or, and because of my location or?
Because of the UDO, you would have to have the lots aren't zoned for accessory use, for residents on that. So I wouldn't be able to permit that. By the UDO standards, so that's why the rezoning is kind of pertinent, and the combination makes it better for you to be able to do that if they decided to do that.
Sure. Thank you.
Just for conversation's sake, if he was to rezone it to one accessory, then he could build a 540 square foot approximate building.
Yeah. Yeah,
Separate application.
separate.
Any other questions, comments? I've got a few just thoughts that I'll share here. For me, it's difficult to see a successful path in terms of what Mr. Krill's sort of desired plan is with these commercial lots. So our obligation as the planning committee, we administer the comprehensive plan. And as Robert points out, the comprehensive plan policy 2.2 discourages new residential development. Other obligation is to apply the UDO. And as we had some discussion here, the UDO requires a SR zone lot to be of 12,000 square foot minimum. He's got 3,500 and change in the combined, the two combined. If he made all three, it would only be 8,600. So again, far short, I think 72% of the 12,000 minimum. And finally, we always take into public comment. We had 63 responses, 62 opposed. So we've got a lot of resistance, if you will, of what Mr. Krill would like to do. I just don't see him finding success in the plans that he's outlined. In my view, he's got the luxury of owning two nice lots that can be used for lots of recreation purposes, but not a building purpose. Those are my thoughts and study over the last few months on this. With that, I think we're ready for I need a motion. We would look for a motion to accept, reject, or we could table it. I look for a motion.
Is there, to recommend
Approval or disapproval too.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we're actually, we would make a recommendation to the town, so yeah, thank you for that. A motion for recommendation, favorable or unfavorable, or no recommendation at all.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. Sorry.
We have a motion.
I think you articulated it well, Bill, and I would, in light of that, I think, I would like to make a motion to, recommend unfavorable.
Okay, we have a motion for the unfavorable recommendation. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. With that, Robert, we take a full vote.
Do we want to do a discussion first or no any further discussion?
Yeah, any further discussion? Hearing none, Robert, will you do a roll call vote?
You want to write it? All right. Guy Rogers, yearly. Nay. Jim McLean, yearly.
Unfavorable.
Just to be clear,
Right.
we've got a motion for unfavorable. So just be clear when.
So we're,
So it's unfavorable. He said nay, which means he doesn't agree with
Correct.
the
Yeah.
motion.
So we got a motion for favorable. If you agree with the favorable, it would be a yay. If you disagree with the favorable, it would be a nay. Are you clear, Guy, with that?
then I'm a yay.
Yeah, the motion on the floor is an unfavorable recommendation of PC, so either agree with that or you don't.
I agree with that.
And Guy, are you?
No.
Okay.
So, yay.
Okay, yeah, so two yay.
Yeah.
Jeff Thunder,
Yay.
Jim Hall,
I agree with the unfavorable recommendation.
Dan Ricky,
Yay.
George Cinco,
Yay.
and Bill Hannon.
Yay.
Okay, 7-0.
Okay, so we have a 7-0 vote in favor of the motion. That's to make it an unfavorable recommendation for the town council. Mr. Krill, you understand any final questions?
No, I'm obviously disappointed, but I just think that I could at least have the option to move forward with it, but I accept the board's ruling and thank you very much for having me.
Okay, yeah, thank you for going through the process with us. If there are questions to follow up, you're certainly welcome to contact with Robert and, you can counsel you on what next option you may consider.
And just to clarify for the record, the town council does make the final ruling on this, so this will be at their meeting for this final decision.
Yeah, very good. Okay, thank you. We'll move on to the next. We're gonna have some old business. The first one, actually the only one in this case, it's a new business. The old business is UDO change 2203-01.
Bear with me. Here I'm getting my agenda.
And we'll pull that up. I'll describe the process as he's pulling that up. We're currently at step 7 and 8, which is defined as finalize and change with the objective tonight to get to step 9, which will be to take it to the town council for final approval. The PC will review the public feedback and will vote if the change would be approved and make a recommendation to the town council for adoption.
So yeah, I got that thing, what's
Okay.
7 and 8.
Yeah, so we're at step 7 and 8, and sort of in the center to the right, finalize the change request, step 7s and 8s. Our rules of procedure, the sponsor will present the change, the PC will ask clarifying questions. Robert will go through the public feedback, we'll open the floor, the public, for to support to the amendment, and then any comments for opposition to the amendment. PC will discuss about this process. We all should keep in mind the criteria that we should bounce this against. The comprehensive plan, current conditions and character of current structures in use in each district, the most desirable use for which the land in each district is adapted, conservation of property values through the jurisdiction, and responsible development and growth. When we get complete, I'll call for a motion to accept or reject, moving that to step 9, and if approved, it will take it to the town council. So Robert has it up with that. George is the sponsor, and we'll hand it to you.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Well, as Bill said, tonight is a public hearing on UDO change log number 2023-01. Excuse me, that addresses the definition of accessory structures occupiable. And with Dan Rippey's help, we are also addressing the definition of guest quarters in the same change order. These changes were presented to the Plan Commission August 1st, and they forwarded their recommendation to a public hearing, and so here we are tonight with this public hearing. The proposed change was initiated at the request of both the community and council members. First, at the April 11th BZA hearing, the definition of accessory structures occupiable was introduced into discussion, and confusion following its meeting. Second, as I worked on the definition of accessory structures occupiable, Dan identified a need to modify the definition of guest quarters. So my research took me back into the November 9th, 2020 Plan Commission meeting, where again, there was confusion regarding the use and place of guest quarters. So that developed this change that we're going to be looking at tonight. Robert, is that the change request up on the screen? Okay, on the screen is the actual change request that we are going to be looking at tonight. And as you look at the form, the section that has changed, you'll notice that anything in green are words added.
Sorry.
And I can't see it, so hopefully the green and the reds you can differentiate. But the greens are added words, the reds are deleted words from the prior publication. That said, what I'd like to do is read the proposed change to accessory structures occupiable. It reads, and you can follow along on the screen, please. Accessory structures occupiable. An accessory structure will be used as a non-habitable space that is clearly complementary and incidental to a primary structure's use. For example, recreation rooms, artist studios, or woodworking shops. An occupiable accessory structure shall not include residential units, studio apartments, guest quarters, and businesses. An occupiable structure may be combined with storage-based structures. And in the UDO, that is in definitions, which is Article 11, page 11-03. Moving on to guest quarters, the new definition of guest quarters is an accessory structure used for overnight guests. For example, sleeping rooms is not permitted in any district and for any length of time. Again, that's in definitions, Article 11, page 11-16. The basis for these changes were several. Number one, it removes contradiction, and both at the BZA hearings and at prior plan commissions, there's discussion, and it sort of went round and round as to what did these things really mean, and did it include living or not living in spaces. It added clarity. Third, it supports a comprehensive plan. And fourth, Robert indicated the feedback to the request for change was 62 respondents and 100% supported the change. There was nobody in opposition to this change from the community. The entire community had the opportunity to respond, and 100% of the response was in favor of it. Well, I'll stop there. Dan, do you have anything you'd like to add? You participated in some of this writing, and like to add.
No, I would agree, George, that the basis for these most recent changes is really coming from the community's replies and responses, both informally and formally. And there's clearly a message that we do not want to have folks sleeping in accessory structures. So we strengthened it accordingly.
Okay, thank you. At that point, any questions from council members?
The statement that the opposition, it was 100% of the respondents is a bit disingenuous in that those respondents represented maybe 50 addresses, occupiable structures out of 450 or 500. So we're really talking about a vocal, motivated 10% of the property owners on the lake that were opposed to this.
Well,
When clearly the people who wrote the UDO, yourself included, intended that property owners could have guest quarters, not rentals, not apartments, but guest quarters and an accessory structure. So I'm a little concerned about, the way this is being framed.
well, you raised 2 points. One, the statistics. And I have to completely disagree with you. 100% of the population had access to it.
Well, that is a fact. but-
And so those who responded care. And if you didn't respond, either you didn't have an opinion or for some other reason you didn't respond. So you can't say just because there's only X number that it's not an accurate statistic.
I understand your point, George.
Okay,
It's just, I suspect, or excuse me, I believe you that a very small portion of the property owners on the lake are engaged in this process so far.
well, we've worked hard.
We certainly have worked hard.
No, we is not me, we is the community. And to that end, there have been countless notices put out to the community to respond to the feedback.
Does that give you the right to remove property rights from property owners?
Well, that's another question.
Yeah, it's a very solid.
Yeah, and if you would look at it, you talked about a history of the original UDO. And yes, I was there when it was written. And there were 2 individuals, 2 out of 600 and some, that wanted a garage with a bathroom and with a bedroom. And those individuals got it in under the UDO. 90+%. I may have those files, they're deep in my file cabinet, but I could dig them out for you if you'd like them, of the original UDO response. And 90+% did not want it. And bring that from that point
But it's
to
there.
to today. Do you know how many sewers and water hookups have been put in lake accessory structures since then?
I suspect that it's a very, very small number, if any.
It's 0. And the community has supported it. And every time this comes up, the community responds with a 90+%. As you know, one of the things that I quote oftentimes is a comprehensive plan, which the entire community, no agenda. The entire community is solicited their input of how they feel about this community. And we went around and we knocked on every stinking door at the lake, not special doors, every door. And out of that came the comprehensive plan. And it's subsequently been updated.
And it included, yes.
It talked about 96% don't want it.
It included, yes, or
I'm not sure how you say included, but if you look at the statistics of the comprehensive plan, 96%, and I don't have it in front of me, but I think of the 96-64 strongly disagree. If you go to the comprehensive plan, I didn't bring it with me. I believe it's 64% strongly don't want it. It's not that they don't want it, they strongly don't want it. The rest of them don't want it. So I'm not sure where you're coming from because it's the community here that speaks. And again, every time we do this and every time we run statistics and every time the statistics come 90+%, today it's 100, there's a challenge to, oh, those aren't right. And I question why aren't they right to the individuals asking the question? So,
Thank you.
did I answer your question?
I understand your position.
Okay.
No, so,
Any other questions for George? With that, Robert, will you show the public feedback summary?
So this is the feedback, we have a little tweaking to do on the feedback, responses, we had a lot of people, obviously 62 are in support of it. We had 42 no concerns, and you can see the number of people that, clicked for, and they had comments, there was a few comments, but some people clicked for the areas of concern. The areas of concern is typically meant for like if you had an issue with the amendment. These are, and all the comments that I read, these are the reasons why they want the amendment to go through. So we gotta clean something up there because it makes it look like you're actually trying to fight against the UDO amendment, but as I'm reading through it, that's not actually what's going on. So all the comments basically showed support for the recommendation that we presented and expressed where they felt that there would be areas of concern if the amendment was not recommended. So, other than that, pretty consistent, feedback on this.
Robert, how many addresses were represented there?
How many addresses? I don't have the number on because it didn't take the exact. I have 62 lines. I'd have to go back and look at that number exactly.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Robert? Okay, I'd like to open it up for public hearing. I have a motion for that.
So moved.
Second.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to open up for public comment. If you have some comments, please come to the podium, state your name. We'll first address in support of the amendment. Anybody have any special comments in support? If none, then comment.
Todd Flounder, 7382 East State Road, Winnie. I have to agree with him because let's say you have 2 people per address, you've got 62. That means you had 31 addresses saying no. I don't feel that 30 some addresses can speak for everybody on it. I don't think it's right. I think you guys are here to represent the people, not go out and solicit for what you would like done here. I think you should, if you're gonna solicit people, solicit everybody and get everybody's point. Don't take 32 addresses, you say 62, but if it was 2 people giving their opinion, that ain't very many houses.
Todd, if I could stop you, I appreciate Robert responding because I don't believe it's that 30 number. I think it's closer to the 60 number. So if you would, I will get the exact number in there.
Well, in a minute.
And do you have any thoughts as to how to increase our participation? I mean,
There's gotta be a way to either, I mean, I know you guys do text messages and stuff like that. I don't know how you're gonna get everybody's input. And maybe the people that don't put in, don't care if somebody has. You know, you can't say because somebody didn't put in their point means that they disagree with it. Maybe they just don't care if somebody has a bathroom or has a living quarter in their garage. Me, if somebody wants a living space in their garage, I don't care. It's their garage. That's just the way I feel. I feel it's my garage. I should be able to say what I want to. And I'm not saying get carried away and have the whole family move in, and that's not what I'm saying. But I'm just saying that if I don't respond, which I didn't respond to this, because I don't care if somebody has guest quarters in their garage. That's me. And so you can't say that because somebody don't respond, they don't care about the thing. That's not, maybe they do care. Maybe their opinion just as, I don't care if they do have living quarters, and I don't care if they don't.
Well, it's tough, Todd, because statistically you can't count
And I
that
know that,
because that knife cuts in both directions.
but you can't do it that way either, saying 62 people are opposed and take that for everybody's.
Well, the issue that it's not just the 62 here, but if you look at the statistic from the beginning of the UDO, it is consistently the same number. Even during the period when there wasn't much developing going on.
Right.
That number continues to 90+%. Every time we've done it, today it's 100%. We have argument, it's wrong. It's statistically valid.
But it's 100% of who went in.
But 100% of the population had a chance, and
99.9 now.
you knew it was there, but you didn't respond, you said it.
Right, but like I'm saying, that I'm one person that because I don't respond,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter to you. I don't care if you got living quarters or if you don't, okay. But we're putting words in other people's mouth because they didn't respond, that they're against it. You don't know.
No, we're not. We're speaking for the people who spoke. We're identifying the people who spoke. And that's.
Hey, Bill? Bill, did you open it up for people online to make comment?
Yes, we will.
Yeah, I didn't hear the opportunity, but
Okay.
obviously I would support this amendment because I think we've been through 2 years of multiple attempts to add second tier structures around the perimeter of the lake. And I think the community has spoken clearly that what defines Clear Lake from Lake James or from Lake Gage or from Crooked Lake is that we have limited the overdevelopment by allowing residential structures on the second tier of the lake. And I think the community has spoken very clearly on this. I can't think of anything that would challenge our infrastructure or challenge the safety of the lake or the integrity of the lake more than doubling the population by allowing people to build living structures on the other side of the road. And I think the community this has probably been the most emotional issue that's come up around the lake in my lifetime. And I certainly hope that the planning committee will put it to rest so that we can focus our efforts on more positive issues than this one.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Any other comment from Zoom? If not,
He's the only one around.
yeah. If not, I look for a motion to close public comment. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, please.
Don Helton, 352 East Clear Lake Drive. I haven't been here as long as a lot of you. I came here in the early 50s. We've been back about 5 years ago. But one of the things that makes Clear Lake so special, and it's been going on now for approximately 77 years that I can remember, is that we don't have all these back structures. You just have to go to Lake James and some of the other lakes and see what has happened there. And we're special at that. And I'd like to commend your committee for trying to reach out in as many possible ways as you could to get input from the residents here. I mean, you, sir, you spoke, you didn't answer. Well, that's not an excuse. In my opinion, it's not an excuse. So the percentage that answered took the time to read it. And Mr. Schenkel has said they've been almost 90% for longer than I actually resided here recently. So I think this motion is very favorable and makes it very easy to understand what you're trying to accomplish. And I think those of you who did the work, I admire a lot of hard work went into this, so thank you.
All right, thank you, Don. Any other comments? And I look for a motion to close public comment.
I'll second it.
We've got a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Okay, public comment is closed. Back to the PC for discussion.
So I would just like to make a couple of comments. Some are just underscoring what's been said. First of all, when I looked at this change and added the value that you're seeing in front of you, it wasn't single dimensional in my thought process. It was first and foremost the comprehensive plan. Comprehensive plan represents, we have to say it represents the community in its entirety. So that's first and foremost. It supports that. The second thing that I always look for with these changes is if there's BZA hearings that are showing up. To me, that articulates a point of confusion within the UDO. Clearly, there have been BZA hearings on this topic. And I think the point of confusion is the fact that the UDO essentially is it allows a blending between LA and SR districts in the sense of stating guest quarters, even talking about sewer and water, etc. So when George and I took a look at this for a second time, we put in words that were very deliberate and very specific that eliminate that confusion between an LA structure and an SR structure. So that's how this came to be. I think it's a good product, a lot of work, and I think it's value added for our UDO.
Good summary.
Was that Bob Hill on the?
Yes, it was.
I think that illustrates perfectly the hysteria that has been created around this issue. The idea of guest quarters would not double the population. It would not create a whole new growth of second-tier residential units. We're talking about non-rental, non-continuous occupancy, occasional grandkid overflow being allowed to sleep in a lake accessory structure. But now we've got the end of Clear Lake as we know it. I remember that from a BZA hearing that I was a part of. In fact, somebody sent out all kinds of emails to try and influence the BZA against a proposal, saying it's the end of Clear Lake as we know it. To say that they're going to double the population of the lake is ludicrous. But this has been spoon-fed at 62 for so long that they're just adamant about this. And you're denying people property rights based on BS.
You know, I would, Jim, I would somewhat agree with you, but I would respectfully disagree with your point. I know a number of people who are not represented by the 62 that said, gosh, if we can do that, I'm going to do that I'm going to put that in because my value of my property is going to go up. And I had another person say, well, if we're going to do that, I'm going to put that out there. I'm going to live there and I'm going to rent it up front.
You can't do that.
But that's the whole point about this is there are so many things that people are wanting to do to skirt the limit, to push the limits, if you will, and we're just trying to clarify. You know, we don't want to be restricted, but I think what we're seeing is so many people are pushing the limits that we've got to be able to pull back in some way.
There's more risk of having a 7-bedroom, 5-bath home on the lakeside than there is of letting your grandkids sleep on the 4th of July in a lake accessory structure.
Why is there more risk?
It's huge.
But there's no more risk in one building than there is to put all your grandkids unsupervised across the road doing whatever they want to do. And I can't, I mean, I'd have to argue with that. To me, that's a huge risk, especially 4th of July weekend.
Okay.
Bill, I just want to
But that
clarify.
just goes,
That's just a clarification on the definitions, not actually regulation change.
And that's true, yeah, we've,
Thank you.
we're really just reviewing the PC count, but points made. Let's move on, with the discussion. I look for a motion to accept or reject the UDO amendment 220301.
This is George, and I move that the UDO change log number 2023-01 is passed to the town council with a favorable recommendation.
Okay, I have a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second to accept the UDO 220301 as written. With that, Robert, can we take a roll call vote?
Yep. Dan Rippey, yea or nay?
Yay.
Jim Hollow, yea or nay?
Yay.
Jess Swander, yea or nay?
Yay.
Jim McLean, yea or nay?
Nay.
Guy Rogers, yea or nay?
Yay.
Oh, Hannah, yea or nay?
Yay.
Also, or, sorry, Finkel, yea or nay?
Yay.
Wow, I just assumed. Anyways,
That would be a good draw.
that would be, pass the 6-1 for favorable recommendation.
Okay, very good. So motion passes at a 6-1 favorable recommendation. That will take to the town council likely at the will it make the November meeting, will it make it? Yeah.
November meeting?
Yeah, it should make it to the November meeting, given we've got a week or so data in advance ahead. Okay, very good. That's old business. Let's move to new business. We have 2 UDO change proposals. First one being 2023-02. And while Robert pulls that up, I'll review the process similar to what we just went through. In this case, we're at steps 3 and 4, which is considered draft, the change request. And our objective today is for PC to discuss the merits of the change and vote if the change should move forward to the step 5, which is public participation. In this case, the discussion is closed to the public. You'll get your opportunity if we approve today and at the following meeting, essentially in February, if all goes as approved, then we'll have a public discussion on it. In this case, I am the sponsor, so I'll go through what we have here and we'll look at clarifying questions and open discussion, and I'll call for a motion. So I'm going to work off my notes and look upward here a little bit. Sorry for the lack of eye contact in the audience. 2023-02. It was introduced in the August meeting, and we postponed it so we could correct and clarify some points that were made. And we have since done that and had some valuable offline discussions. So thank you for everybody who contributed on that. The article that we are looking at is 5.13.c, which relates to architectural standards. The comprehensive plan that is applicable is policy 7.2 and objective 7.2.1. And the words are here: continue to review and modify as necessary land use regulations so that property values are protected and enhanced. And I should go for the top one. I'm reading upside down here. Ensure the existing future Clear Lake property owners can move through the permitting procedure as quickly as possible while still protecting the interests of the town. And that really is the primary point here. So in the change and modify, this second point, we're looking to change UDO 5.13. We're going to add 5.13.A.1. We're going to modify 13.c and add 13.c.1. The basis for the change is that 5.13c is overly restrictive and possibly open for interpretation. So we have a proposal here that would make things clear and more efficient for the residents. As you see, the focus applies to LA lots and accessory buildings. The way it reads today, is as shown in accessory buildings. They can come in several forms if you dig into the definition. Most frequently, and the one we just talked about, like George's discussion, was occupiable, but they can also be storage or recreation based, but occupiable accessory building are defined as primary. Robert, can you pull up a diagram? Before I get into the words, what we're trying to depict here is an ease for really the residents to understand how the building configuration, how the zoning administrator and all the contractors that look to apply this. The way the UDO reads today is that you look at the perimeter of the building and 6 segments are required. And one of the 6 segments must be at least 10% of the perimeter.
The shorter.
The shortest segment must be at least 10% of the perimeter. So we created a couple of examples here. The one on the left, in this case, would be a restricted lot size, meaning a fairly small LA lot. And I have the roadside depicted up top. The one on the left is if the were to follow the current standard. And in this case, this would be a 40 by 30 garage, so only 1,200 square feet if it was perfectly square. But the UDO, as currently written and interpreted, would require one of those segments to be 10%. There's 140 linear feet in total. And 10% of that is 14. So you can see this 14-foot segment here is the way it's required. So in the end, you've got a 1,200 square foot buildable space, but you're really only getting 990 square feet of usable space. And furthermore, you look at the left side bay, if you will, 26 feet deep. That's usable to park a car or maybe a Suburban, but you're probably limited to park a boat with a long tongue and everything. So you're really only getting one bay the way it's currently depicted. The requirement that we're looking to propose, we're going to suggest that shortest segment only be required to be 6 feet. And we'll talk more about that 6-foot dimension. But just following the proposal, you would be allowed to build as depicted. You're going to get 1,110 square feet, so much more usable space. And you really won't have that limitation on that second bay. That would be just one example in a restricted lot size. When I say restricted, it might be a 40-foot of frontage, but maybe only 50 feet deep. The next slide just is a more of an unrestricted lot size. In this case, I got close to the 1,344 allowable space. On the left side, you would follow the current proposal, and that would require one of the segments to be 16 feet. And as you can see there, you got 1,320 square foot footprint. Sorry, you're getting a 1,320 square feet of available space, but it's not real conducive. You're losing a lot of functional space if you follow the requirement. The one on the right, if we follow the proposed requirement with that 6-foot offset, you can see we're still getting 1,320 square feet, but we're only using 47 feet of depth versus the 52 feet of depth. So these are just illustrative purposes. There's an untold number of variations, everything in between. So we go back to the proposed UDO change. So the from to, if you go to the to language, here we go. What we're looking to add in dot A is an exception. The exception would be accessory structures less than 144 square feet shall be exempt from the remaining provisions of section 5.3. We included that because the UDO doesn't allow in an LA lot to have 2 buildings. One building could be up to 1,200 square feet, and then the other one could be a 12 by 12, 144 square feet. Or you could get one building and a total combination of 1,344. So we don't want to be overly restrictive on this called a shed. You know, the sheds are available at big box stores, or sometimes you see them on the corners, and they're pretty simple, 12 by 12 or something thereabouts, and a standard roof, if you will. So we didn't want to be overly restrictive on just those types of buildings. Then we move on to section C. What we're looking to do is clean up a couple of grammatical issues. You can see it used to say there are six, there are seven, and it read six, so we cleaned that up and a few minor things. But LA lot shall meet the standards of section 5.13.c.1. So we're calling out that LA lot, this one would not apply to lake residential lots, but just LA lots. The LA lot structure footprint, the structure shall have a minimum of 6 foundation segments, and the shortest segment shall be no less than 6 feet. Now that 6-foot number is somewhat arbitrarily identified. Again, the 10% we thought was overly restrictive. It could be 8, it could be something else, but we chose 6 as I'll call it a happy medium.
Yeah, any numbers are arbitrary, just saying.
So with that, I'll open the floor up for some open discussion amongst the PC for further clarification. What's written or the appropriateness?
Well, just conceptually speaking, I do think this is something that needs to be addressed. We're getting some weird designs, some forced out of dimension designs here. What the optimum point is, I don't know. And I don't know if there's a way that some architect could possibly mathematically calculate a percentage or whatever, but I think the direction we're going is good. I'm not sure if this is the absolute answer, but I don't know what the absolute answer is right now. Maybe some architectural discussion might get a harder number there or a better number.
Other thoughts?
Bill, the basic change, 513C, as it applies to LA structures, is overly restrictive. The proposed provision will create a standard that will reduce the likelihood of residents requesting a variance and achieve desired architectural features. I like your 6-foot solution. It is much better than any of the other, earlier interpretations, but did I understand 513C doesn't apply to an LD structure?
And if you read the entire section, 5.13 is RE, SR, LR, LA, MR, and NC. So all of those lots, it is applicable.
What's the problem with the square garage? Help me understand what the difficulty with a square garage is.
Well, the UDO states, that, or not, maybe it's not the UDO companies. Something states, I can't remember where it's at, it's that, they want to control, more architecture complex designs. And that's what that's where that's being driven.
That's right.
But with the lake accessory structure being unoccupiable, would that apply?
It applies because it, I don't, LA lot, because an LA lot is separate, even though a lot of people use it subordinate to their LR lot, they're still technically a separate lot of record. And you don't have to own an LR lot to actually own an LA lot. So it's a primary use on that lot. So that's why it applies to this.
So again, back to my earlier question, what's the problem with the square garage?
It just doesn't meet the architectural standards that is described in comprehensive plan and the UDO.
So in this case, Jim, this is actually lessening the restriction that's being applied to LA.
And I certainly support the 6 foot, but Dan, didn't you tell us at the last meeting that it didn't apply?
Yeah, I did. I've since looked at it. There's, we just discussed a change. that is gonna go in front of council that will essentially make LA structures primary structures.
Any other points? No. Okay, with that, I look for a motion to accept this UDU.
I'm sorry, I
Okay.
didn't have one
And
suggestion. Under this section C text at the very bottom, LA lots shall meet the standards of section 513.c. Would you be opposed to adding LA lot structures? I'm trying to get a tie between the applicability statement and the section C.
Where were you thinking, Dan?
LA lot structures instead of just LA lots.
Okay.
I didn't catch that.
yeah, no, that would be consistent with the next.
Right.
Are these for the new structures or
Yes.
what about expanded?
We try to always make sure that we gain conformance to any addition to, so if there's a certain percentage of addition, they have to comply as well. So like if there's a square, when I have one on my, or I don't have one on my desk, I have one that I'm gonna be talking to the builder later this week. It's a square building and they wanna do an addition to it, and because the addition, they have to bring it into compliance with the UDO. So,
I guess what I'm thinking is I've got a rectangle and if I want to add off the back, I have to make it 6-sided or I just can't go straight out. I mean, it's not seen, it's not visible.
right, no, I understand, but we try to gain compliance. Through expansion as well.
Okay.
I think it's 20% if I remember. I think there's a percentage that. If you, no, I'm misspeaking, sorry. Okay. Thinking of something else.
All right. Because looking at this, typically it's from the front perspective, the front architectural design. And I know we had talked about, well, if we do this, if the front is still flat, are you going to require that on the back side? Or is that 6 foot? So that it's aesthetically similar architecturally from the front. I mean, if the front of the facade is not going to change, why should that be required on the back side?
So. And I'd have to double check, but I think when I went look through this, it doesn't actually apply it to as a requirement to the facade. It's so.
To the foundation.
It's just to the foundation, so it could be on the front or the back. It doesn't matter the orientation that the building is being established,
Right.
it just has to be there.
But
Whereas what you're saying is we want the architectural detail on the facade.
well, if we're doing this so that there's consistency between Lake accessory and Lake residential, so they look fairly similar. I think that's the gist behind it, is so that the look and feel's the same. So if the idea is that they're supposed to look and feel the same, you've got a garage on the Lake residential side, and you kind of want that little alcove, if you will, on the other. To me, it doesn't make sense if that's not put in up front and somebody takes advantage of that in the back.
Well, and that has happened, so
Right.
I mean.
So, you're not getting the architectural consistency.
You only have, because the other piece of this drive is the multi-segmented roof.
Right.
You're gonna see that almost invariably, but yeah, you're right, the perimeter wall could be hidden.
Yeah.
To add a facade clause, we probably.
No, I didn't mean facade, I meant
Roadway, but what I'm trying to say is to add that kind of requirement to make sure that's closer to the front or to the roadway. We might have to go in and look how we want to word that, Mike.
Yeah, I wouldn't be in favor of that
Okay.
level of detail. I think that we've been successful with the footprint and its effect on primary structures. Largely successful. I can't even think of us new construction hasn't been very pleasing, and I think that all we're trying to communicate with this change, correct me if I'm wrong, Bill, is that we would like that same consideration on LA lots. To get into starting to define which side the 6 foot has to be on, I think is we're never gonna win on that one. I think it's best to just apply what's already been successfully in place to the LA structure. That's
Yeah, I would, thinking about it, I was almost with you, but then, I mean. The motivation here was, it was overly restrictive, and then we'd start adding yet another demand if we.
Right.
If we included the orientation of the building, and then we would. Having be no better, no worse than we were.
Well, I guess it's not necessarily orientation. Some of that would be for expansions. I mean, thinking about it, if you have, there's a lot of buildings that, a lot of garages that were built years ago. And if someone wants to expand, because they have the ability to go up in square footage. And depending upon what that expansion brings, that may not be optimal. And if they had a 2-sided roof or a 4-sided roof, does that now also have to change?
Technically, yeah. So maybe if you say when they do an expansion, they have to bring it to floor plan requirement as well.
Be a possibility. I hate to say, well, then it's off to the BZA, but that's always an outlet.
Yeah, yeah.
And how frequently that will occur.
Well, I
That's
guess,
something we
yeah,
accept.
and I guess what I'm trying to do is throw out some variables and try to think outside of the norm and say, okay, it makes it pretty standard for new construction, new building, but what is that gonna look like for those that are already existing? What should the variables be? And as you said, I think if it's an expansion, yeah, that could go to the BZA for variance.
Other comments? Okay, with that, I look for a motion to accept the 2023-02 as written.
As amended, you mean with the structure requirement?
Yes, yeah, good point.
With the word
with the word structure included in that dash C element that you included. I have a motion.
Dan, I would make a motion to accept 2020 or forward the change 2023-02 with the word structure added to section C following LA lot with a favorable recommendation. I'm sorry, public hearing. Public hearing.
Yeah, right. Approve it for public hearing.
Public hearing.
We have a motion, we have a second. George, I'll second the motion. Thank you, George. With that, Robert, can we do a roll call vote?
Okay. Jim Powell, Gary.
Yay.
Jess Swander, Gary.
Yay.
Jim McLean, Gary.
Yes, sure.
George Tinkle, Gary.
Yay.
Guy Rogers, Gary. Hey. Dan Rippey, Gary.
Yay.
And Bill Henry, Gary.
Yeah,
That is 7-0.
very good. So we have a approved that this change has modified. Will be forwarded for public comment, and we'll look to review it in its next step on the February 2024 meeting. Okay, another new business, UDO 2203-03. Follow essentially the same process as we're essentially at the same step, which is in the draft. Proposal steps 3 and 4. And again, I am the sponsor of this. Let me just open up with some background on it. This is the first time we've introduced this this UDO change. It's an outgrowth of lessons learned from the situation we had this summer at 101 Billings Court. As some would recall, we had an issue arose over the language or interpretation of UDO Article 8.04. Specifically, the definition of demolition. And this becomes important when we have a legal non-conforming structure and the resident is looking to upgrade their home. Actually, the number of legal non-conforming structures around the lake is larger than probably most of us know. Generally, it relates to years of history and application of viewshed requirements that weren't well defined or followed many years ago. As noted in this in 8.04.c-2, that's what we're going to be looking at. The comprehensive plan objective of note is 7.2.1, ensuring we all can move through the permitting process efficiently while protecting the interests of the town. Because then that's again, it's a lesson learned out of 101. We had some inefficient time spent trying to come to a conclusion. The words of interest here are significantly removed or raised is the word that we'll focus in on. And for this definition is different for everybody. Everybody, and I'm sure what significantly means. Interesting enough, in the UDO, the objective measure for flood damage is 50%. And for act of God and fire, it's 70%. But for a demolition, it was just deemed significant. We didn't have an objective measure for whatever reason. And again, the reason why this would be important, if we have a legally non-conforming structure and the owner wants an ILP to improve their home, depending on the degree of demolition they do, they could lose their legally non-conforming status and required to make the building conforming. In many cases, that means setback changes, which can be difficult to accomplish or certainly something some people want to avoid. We've had many discussions on this topic between Robert and Mike and myself on what's the definition of significant, and we've swung in all directions. We swung from leaving it to the discretion of the zoning administrator, which is challenging for Robert day in and day out. We've talked about third-party appraisals, determining the value of what's been demolished. We've had various formulas that involve the roof, the perimeter walls, the subfloor, the foundation, all challenging formulas that we looked at. So our proposal today leans to a more simplified definition, always a challenge to get to that point. And right now, an exact number is open for discussion. Actually, it's all open for discussion, but we thought we would at least generate this. So let me read what we have. The language that's currently there reads removal of permanent structures. If a permanent structure is fully or significantly removed or raised, the remaining permanent structure shall lose its legal non-conforming status and become illegal non-conforming, unless by significantly removing or raising the permanent structure, remaining permanent structure is in compliance or more in compliance with the current Unified Development Ordinance. That's the way it currently reads. And what we're looking to propose is removal of permanent structures. If a permanent structure is fully or significantly removed or raised, example, right now, XX% or more of the structure, not including the roof. So we're looking to put an objective measure in place so we won't have a point of contention. And then all the other words there will remain the same. But we're looking to just include an objective measure.
Or you state, the percentage, how do you measure what's being demolished? I mean, are we, if there was a 2,000 square foot single story house on a slab. And the slab is going to be unchanged, is there no percentage? I mean,
Therein lies,
50% out, you know?
therein lies the challenge, and that's why we talked to us a lot about measuring just the perimeter walls. If 50% of the perimeter walls or 70% of the perimeter walls are raised, then it's considered complete.
And we have to have that language. in-
Well.
Well, wouldn't we? I mean, you gotta.
Well, I mean,
I'm not arguing. I'm just saying.
Jim, let me give you an example, so that.
Yeah.
Up on, was it East Clear Lake, I think, guy, correct me if I'm wrong, the one that got cut in half and. The tree fell on it right up there, really bad. Trying to remember.
Yeah, that was right there in your neighborhood.
Yeah,
Okay, well, anyway, okay,
Oh, no, you're right.
it's the boomerang.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's a garage, it's a lawful non-conforming because of its size. And it's on a slab, as an example. And per the UDO for an act of God, it's 70% of the structure could have been demolished and then they could rebuild the garage back, right? So 30% of it had to remain for them to be able to do this, which that they left 30% of the roof and then the wall structure in that case. And I didn't calculate the slab into that. That's just not what I used in that calculation.
I don't mind if it's a perimeter wall, I just need to know what it's gonna be.
Right, well, and then
Or the road.
discussion with, the thing is with 101 Billings is they left the foundational walls. And then removed everything else.
Yeah.
So it's hard and it's one of those things that, yeah, you probably want to try to define it, but if you get too complicated in trying to define it, it might just overcomplicate it. And at that point, it might fall to the discretion of.
But we backed away from 101 buildings because it wasn't the fun.
In the end, yeah, we didn't have any.
Right, but we didn't have a number to go off of to go to. If this way, we could say 70%, then we can argue that point. And that's where we're kind of bringing it back to, because we went so many different ways with trying to either define it, not define it. It got to the point where I told Bill, I'm like, we just need to talk to the planning commission and see what everybody feels.
So if you got 50%, could you enforce that?
What's that?
If it was 50%, could you enforce that? Or are we gonna be in court saying, you know, we say it's 50%, they say it's not 50%?
Well, you have to be very specific about how you're measuring the 50%.
Yeah, and consistent.
Well, that's my point.
Yeah.
What do we think?
For me, perimeter wall was the one I kept leaning to, but we just backed off to try and take advantage of this group and gain a little more wisdom, if you will. But it was perimeter wall that the roof is rarely the point of non-compliance. It's typically the frontage and perimeter wall.
Is that bad?
Typically.
I remember when I first came on at the town, Bob Hall had it at 4 walls had to remain. So whether it was like oddly shaped or not, it was 4 walls that had to remain in a demolition in order to.
Any four.
Any four.
You just said 4.
Mhm.
The full length or partial.
4 walls. Do you remember?
It would have, for some reason, it sticks in my mind that if they left like 10 foot in the northeast corners, yeah, and 10 foot of each wall in the southwest corner, or they left, there was 4 walls
Somewhere.
or sections of walls left.
Sectional walls, not necessarily an
Yeah.
entire.
Right, it was like sections of the wall.
Right.
It was like a 10, 12 foot or something like that.
he had some formula that he applied, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah, actually, that. I think even Chris Fallon was, he would bring that out every once in a while, that was the.
And maybe he got it
specific
from
thing that
him.
was used, that it was specific corners. I think you had to have 2 corners left in it with a minimum of 10 feet, but what we ran into with this, they said, well, it's fine, but the new studs are wider than the old studs, so we're gonna get rid of that. Well, if you're gonna get rid of that, then essentially you've lost your
Yeah.
wall.
Because they'll build the new walls and then take out the old walls to build in those.
Exactly.
And I've seen that a couple of times.
Mhm.
It's sturdy.
The one thing that I think that you guys as a planning commission need to be mindful of is the purpose of this section. This is addressing non-conforming structures. Right, the reason this is in here is because you're trying to bring things back into conformity. So, I mean, that's one thing that you have to be mindful of, is trying to figure out when this is applied and what portion of the structure it would apply to. And then secondly, I think that it definitely has to have an objective standard, because something like value is too subjective, then you're in a legal battle over what is 50% of the value, what, you know, how do you determine that?
Right.
If you have something that's very objective and ascertainable, like the perimeters on the walls, that's something that's easier for everyone to understand. Like the perimeters of
So, while you guys are thinking about that, the other thing that, Angola, for whatever one that sticks out of my mind, they have almost verbatim the same exact sentence that we have. Except they allow 80% or more of the structure. So the weird thing to that, why that sticks out to me, is you have an act of God that 70% of the structure can be destroyed and you can rebuild it, but you can destroy 80% and still rebuild
right.
it. So, but then theirs goes on to say, well, if it's an act of God, 70%.
Yeah.
So that percentage,
Yeah.
in my opinion, shouldn't exceed definitely shouldn't exceed at the very hard end of the end of what we're allowing for like an act of God. Now, to also keep in mind, if it's a flood, it's 50%. So that's half the structure. If half the structure is damaged in a flood, you can't rebuild it. So that pushes it down even further, that you probably shouldn't even be looking at something that exceeds that.
So these are really non-conforming, that's what you're saying, is we're trying to figure that out.
These are all this goes with legal non-conforming. And just to offer a perspective from an engineering mindset here. When you start out trying to define significant, where it took me was, well, why are we even concerned? Well, we had an incident. Well, what did we have an incident about? What we really had an incident about is the conflict that currently exists in the UDO between what's allowed for legal non-conforming buildings as far as modifications, and a section that tries to essentially drive legal non-conforming structures to be consistent with a comprehensive plan. Okay, the comprehensive plan wants us to increase green spaces, decrease intensity. And when you have a legal non-conforming structure out there, it's working against the comprehensive plan. So it really comes down in my mind of at what point does a modification of a structure really trigger that we should just take it down and make it conforming. You know, we're fighting by increasing the percentages that can be modified. We're not being honest to the comprehensive plan. But we have to be sensitive to what Bill said, which is there's a lot of legal non-conforming structures, and we don't want to force everybody to be conforming. So that's the balance in which we have to strike. So then I took it one step further and I said, okay. 100% of the foundation has to be present. That's a minimum. The foundation establishes the non-conforming. Because typically a setback kind of issue that we're dealing with. So no changes to the foundation, you have to preserve it in its entirety. Then you can get into, all right, well, you know, if we're gonna change 50% of this building, is that the trigger? That we just say that's all we're gonna allow? Personally, I think it's no more than 50%. I would even tighten it up a little more myself. But
Originally, I had a number at 30.
and then you have to define is, are we talking square footage or perimeter walls or what?
I was gonna say, I think it may be applied differently depending upon what makes it non-conforming. Because just because we're looking at demolition and square footage, it may not be the square footage that's non-conforming, it may be a view shed option. So wouldn't we want to target the area that is non-conforming versus look at the entire scope of the project, or am I short-sighted on that thinking?
No, I don't think you're short-sighted on that. I think that's. You're trying to, I think you're inferring that we should drive performance.
When we can, yes,
Okay,
but the idea
that's
being,
where we're at.
the idea being. If we've got something that is gonna be modified. And it's in a non-conforming, if they're going to take a portion of it down. Then whatever they take down that's non-conforming, let's say, you know, if we use a number like 50%. But 50% does not impact, it doesn't change the non-conforming piece of it. What does it matter? Does that really do, or we do? Doesn't matter. What we are saying is, if what you're demoing has a direct impact or is in the non-conforming area of the building, then certainly that there should be some action taken for that.
Jim makes a good point. You're suggesting that the foundation not be changed.
Yeah.
Maybe it would be that the non-conforming portion of the foundation not be changed. No,
No, you know,
well, I mean,
we all have our own way.
Yeah, I'm just.
But I'm trying to move and be honest about what the comprehensive plan is trying to drive us to be.
Well, and I'm trying to get the property right to people.
Less
If
density.
they have,
Hang on one second, give me an opportunity to repeat myself. It's trying to drive less density. Okay, so if a homeowner has a non-conforming structure, they're allowed to do anything to it, already written in the UDO, anything to it as long as they don't increase the non-conformity. Okay, they're allowed to do that. No change is necessary. However, what we're saying is that really truly what the comprehensive plan wants us to do as a plan commission. Because the comprehensive plan is trying to drive us to, I'll just say it, eliminate, you know, the non-compliance. There's many opportunities that it says you're not allowed to be non-compliant to the UDO, right? And so what we're debating here tonight is when you're looking at a home, what percentage of reconstruction constitutes really starting over and making it compliant?
support a percentage, as long as they know how to apply it.
And you know, it's interesting that we've already got 2 percentages in the UDO, 50% for flood and 75% for What was it?
70% for active guides. It's basically everything except the lights and stuff.
Why it's different, hard to.
Well, I think the difference.
Well, different active guy.
Yeah, that's what I was too, but I think it's because we're around the lake and the chances of flood issue might be more prevalent, so that we want to make sure that those become more compliant quickly, even though we're not in the flood zone.
Yeah. You're on a river, then, yeah, that would make a lot of sense to get the house off the bank.
Blackboard's a serious issue. Dan, I just put down a note, 100% of the foundation must remain in 50% linear bacterial walls.
Good reusing, what's already in there.
No,
So.
and I put linear footage of exterior walls right now, just as a point of top.
To build a perimeter.
But
Yeah.
Too, so. I don't know, there was a percentage of perimeter walls. That you were recommending then?
It was in between that 50 and 70 is where we had spent most of our debates. Yeah, not taking into account the interior walls anywhere, it's all.
And honestly, too, I don't feel compelled for any particular. I mean, I want a percentage. I think we have to have a percentage. I'm not compelled that 50's right or 70's right or 80's right or wrong. I think doing nothing is wrong. Because we leave the conflict in the document. Just choosing something, maybe we choose the more conservative or the less conservative end of the scale. And see how it works out. I mean, a lot of what we do is experience based. And so that should make, that should help us, knowing that we don't have to be perfect.
when you're saying that the foundation has to remain at 100%, are you saying that you can't put an addition on that property?
Well, you're allowed to put an addition as long as it doesn't increase the non-conformity.
Which the UDO doesn't permit to begin with.
I understand that, but then, so you got a 1,500 square foot, a 1,200 square foot cottage and you want to.
Oh, I'm saying if the foundation is crap. And you want to pour a new foundation to repair it. That's a problem.
Okay, but if I have a 1,200 square foot cottage, which is in front of somebody else's cottage because it's 60 years old. And I want to add on the roadside another 1,000 square feet. And I'm gonna leave the original foundation alone. Is that okay?
Yeah, because you're not
You're not
raising anything.
Okay, as long as we don't change the original foundation, we can add on to it.
You're not raising any of the current.
Okay.
For the foundation, but then Dan's point also goes into that you have to, right now, if 50% of the linear footage of the perimeter or exterior walls need to remain as well, including 100% of that foundation. So the change to the exterior walls will come into play.
But I could put a 2-story addition on the roadside with no problem.
Potentially.
And I think, I would err more on the side of the 50%. Be more my preference from the standpoint of, if you're gonna make a 50% change, that's pretty significant change. And so if someone is not compliant at that point, then it puts more eyes on it earlier to kind of take a look at it and say, is this standard, is it non-conforming? And then as long as they don't go outside of that non-conforming, but I think it brings it to light a little sooner. I don't know if we would have more that would be that way or less, but I'd rather catch it sooner rather than later.
Do you happen to have the non-conforming, legal non-conforming? A list of legal non-conforming?
Robert, I.
I haven't developed one, but that's one of my goals, is to have a place list. But it's gonna take a while to do with the GIS platform. But that's one of the things I'd like to get noted in there of all the non-conforming properties and lots and uses. But that takes a lot of time.
Well, that's okay. Our next meeting is not till January.
No, one other thing I guess I would comment on is, you know, this ordinance, there's a presumption when you use language or you omit language. That the body that did it for a reason, and so when you're saying in one section, you know, for instance, with the flood and the fire, that you're saying 50%. Of loss. I'm sorry, a loss of value greater than 50%, or a loss of 50% or more of its physical structure. That's how you're referring to it in those sections. You're not talking about it in regard to linear feet. So then, when somebody does have a flood, they're gonna look at it and say, well, in this instance, they're talking about linear feet. In this instance, they're talking about loss of physical structure. They made a distinction there, and they did it for a reason. And so I think that you have to be very careful in this, and that, you know, perhaps you want to try and if you're going to address the issue, address all of those sections so that they're consistent. So that there isn't some ambiguity created by the fact that you've used different language in one section as opposed to another. But that makes more work for him.
Well, for me, I didn't expect a 100% resolution today. We include that in the collective wisdom here, and Robert and I continue to go to work, and we bring it up in February. We have had some good points that I'm making note here. In many cases, you confirm what we've been debating, and in other cases, just some good points, so I appreciate the dialogue.
Mike, could we say that, you mentioned loss of values identified here in the UDO, is that somewhat subjective?
It is very active.
So again, if we could get to a tape measure type measurement of.
That's not for the zoning administrator to sit down with the builder and say, well, you lost 50% of the value. Well, no, the foundation's worth.
Yeah.
Well, the UDO,
I'd like to see us move away from that and get into more concrete measuring tools.
well, additionally, then, bringing that up, there's another section beyond this that I don't have up, but it talks about it, it's the administrator's discretion to use those values as well. And then possibly maybe removing that section if we want to get rid of that entirely. So,
I think it's a good discussion. It's not like we're digging. There's more digging into this that we need to get more points to dig out.
Okay, maybe then to wrap this up, I just look for a motion. I'll preempt it, a motion to postpone this for further discussion in the February meeting.
So moved.
Okay, so we have a motion to postpone this until February meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Very good, postpone and we'll review. Thank you for the input. Okay, last topic on new business is the 2024 meeting schedule. Robert, if you can display that. Oops, trying to get on, we have 4 minutes to get onto the wire. No problem.
Love the practice.
I'm here. Bear with me. There we go. Okay.
All right, we're gonna follow the same schedule as last. It's the first Tuesday of each month. However, in November, we're going to, in respect for the upcoming elections, we'll do it on Monday like we are today. I think that's probably the right thing. While I'm thinking about that, reminder that tomorrow is vote day and please head to the polls. But with that, all those in favor of adopting the meeting dates as listed? Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we have a schedule at the moment for 2024. Can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? Move. Second, we have a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you very much. Yeah.
That's.
Yeah.